Hi. Humpy Back is a very well-known syndrome in sheep in Western Queensland. As you'll see, this picture is just giving a brief overview of what the master looks like. However, like I said, the disease is more, or the syndrome is more seen in the Western Queensland during the summer, and it's usually worst after the summer rain. These sheep have full wool, and they are normal until they are driven or mustered for a couple of kilometers. And the affected animals fall to the rear and seem to have difficulty on their limbs. Basically, they seem to be weak at the legs, and they start to knuckle. They try to have a rest for a while, and after a brief rest, they seem to recover. And as soon as they start walking, it seems to come back to them. These animals normally have a very high breathing rate. We're talking of over 200 breaths per minute. So far we have seen that sheep suffering from Humpy Back normally have a lot of tissue damage. However, the signs on the lungs are very, very obvious. As you can see, there are a lot of acute haemorrhages, which does compromise their ability to exchange air or oxygen, for that matter, when the demand is the highest. And this slide shows the depth of hemorrhage in the lungs. And a similar note, the trachea has been very, very reddened with increased blood supply, and a bit of stable foam, which is basically a mixture of air and the protein leak that causes further obstruction in breathing. Several known causes of Humpy Back, several viruses rather, in that region that are known to occur have been excluded, and several plant poisoning, including the solanum weed, also known as potato bush, has been excluded. To date, there hasn't been any causative agent identified to this disease or the syndrome. From what we have seen is the animals that are affected normally have a very elevated rectal temperature. I would like you to remember that when the temperature reading is 41.5 degrees centigrade, the animal starts to damage its tissues. That includes the muscles, the lungs, the heart, the liver, or basically general tissue starts to get damaged. And we are recording temperatures in excess of 42 degrees, up to 43 degrees and so on. And it's worth noting again that animals suffering Humpy Back generally have a lot of tissue damage. It is reasonable to assume that not every sheep in the mob has the identical health status to all of them. They would be similar, however, there would be some with probably a bit higher burden of worms, might have a slightly poorer body condition, they might have some injuries, they might have even some indication of Wuthering degeneration, as people would have thought in the past. All this contributing under the pressure of, or under the situation of extreme muster or extreme condition of temperature and humidity, they exacerbate the problem, and the animals show the suffering very quickly. This is a slide that shows that an animal, generally the animals with humpy back have on average higher body temperature than the animals not affected. And there is a lot of muscle damage, there is kidney damage, there's a lot of lactic acid in the animal, and usually people would have experienced that as they handle the sheep, sometimes it dies while they're still in the hand. And that death is associated with high potassium level in the blood. I have developed this chart for people to have a look as to what the conditions may be on the day. This is a heat index chart, and it puts in the humidity and the temperature together, so that you can, so it basically tries to establish what an animal is feeling on the particular time under those situations. During summer, a lot of these animals under moisture of say 10-15% humidity and about close to 40 degrees temperature, these animals are already very close to their body temperature is normally close to 40 degrees anyway. And as soon as you start to muster them, they generate more heat and the body temperature exceeds 41, 42 very quickly. Under these circumstances, if the animals are left alone in the paddock, they'll find shade and they'll probably keep themselves cool and comfortable. However, mustering does not allow that to happen, and they continue to generate more heat. What happens is, as the heat is generated with the heavy wool, the animal is not able to dissipate that heat out of the body. The next, or the most efficient way to exchange the heat is through respiration. However, under the humid condition, this respiration is compromised, or it's a bit inefficient. So the animal continues to generate more heat and not able to release it out of the body. And it doesn't take long for the animal to exceed 42, 43 degrees, which is severe damage or catastrophic for the animal. I would wish people to make use of this heat index chart to help them in their decision making as to whether the conditions are favorable for them to muster or not. And if they are going to muster for a long distance, the higher the index closer to the danger area is more likely to produce more serious consequences. So, by this presentation, I actually encourage people to not muster in extreme caution situations. It would be wise to have thermometers that they can use as a guide for them to establish what the animals are feeling at the time. And obviously, animals with humpy back and high temperatures need special attention and help. It would be wise if they could be transported on vehicles and be shown off as quickly as possible and left with a lot of shade and water. If this is not feasible, I think you should leave these animals in a cool place and provide water. It normally takes up to 2 weeks for these animals to recover. However, they will need support and attention, especially with water and shade. I think that's the end for this topic.